In case you've been living under a rock in Baltimore for the past year, I will let you know a little bit about it. It is 12 O'Clock Boys was a documentary that was released last spring. It's about an urban dirt bike pack in Baltimore. The documentary highlights, it sort of follows Pug, this young guy who is trying to get involved with the dirt bike pack. And I just watched it for the first time last night, and it's an amazing, beautifully shot story. Raw yet touching. It was just really, really lovely. So it was nice to have that. So Eric Blair, he has founder of Mission Film that was founded in 2000, and he's sort of known for his work with the Phantom camera system. So I think he's going to talk a little bit about that, one I'm really excited about. I knew that he was right for this when I mistakenly kept getting CC'd on his emails. He had another, I think it's like an assistant or somebody named Katie that he works with. And so I kept mistakenly getting emails. So I just want to read an excerpt from one of them. Oh yeah, this is happening. He says, I have a Phantom, ultra slow-mo cam shoot on Sunday the 2nd, and it's a guy falling on fire at over 1,000 frames. And if you want someone singing, doing a wheelie while on fire, meaning being on a motorcycle, riding on one wheel per our movie and trailer, on fire, please let me know as soon as possible. And with the trippy nature of the video, I think it could arguably be germane to the narrative to see someone on fire. So, with no further ado, Eric Blair.
Thank you. Okay, so this is our theatrical trailer.
They call them the 12 O'Clock Boys because they drop the bike straight back. If you get to 12 o'clock, you the shit. I've been on this earth for a decade and a couple years. So what that makes me, I'm a grown-ass man.
Baltimore City Sunday. Fuck City Council, fuck the police, any of them that tries to stop us. This is our shit. Fucking bird watching us now.
When I got hit, I hit the tree and got knocked out conscious. I like the rush of it. Any nigga want it, they can come get it.
This one right here, I don't know where he came from. He just wild.
You gonna hurt yourself on them bikes. Them bikes is dangerous.
Don't matter if I fall, break my arm, anything, I'm hopping back on this bike.
You keep hanging with these dudes. Shit is real out here, and them police is not playing.
That's how we do, man, all day. Fuck the police. We live above authority down here.
You can't just ride, call yourself a 12 o'clock boy, and then stop.
So that's our trailer. I don't know if anyone's seen the film here. Anyone here has seen the film yet? It was a 4-year journey to make this happen. Make sure This is the very first time we worked with Pug, the youngest rider, and Steven, kind of the patriarch of the 12 O'Clock Boys. It's not an organized gang, it's just a pack of people. If you've seen the film, you kind of get some idea. But essentially, this all started about 4.5 years ago when I hired a talented a person named Lotfi Nathan, who's the director of this film, from Micah, right out of Micah. These are some shots that are not in the film. I'm just showing you this is the very first shoot day. I was actually doing some work for the show Ace of Cakes, and John Benham, one of the very talented camera operators, phantom camera operators that worked on this. We left from Charm City Cakes and went right to get our Magic Hour shot with Pug. I commissioned this piece when Lotfi was working for my production company, Mission Film, which was the in-house production company for an ad agency for about a decade called Mission Media. So I hired Lotfi after seeing a short version of The 12 O'Clock Boys that he did as a student project in 2008. And after he started working, with me and actually with Drew as well, he was really passionate about continuing to go out and get footage with the writers. So I finally made a decision to commission a piece and hire him to turn it into a feature, which I think he really was kind of skeptical that it could hold up as a feature. It had been a short, it had been in some festivals. Then when Pug became involved in 2010, September 24th, 2010, which is that first shot we did, that's when the film really started to take shape. And it was really exciting that I owned a Phantom camera at John Benham, who's sitting here, Emmy Award-winning Phantom operator for National Geographic, recommended that I get this camera because we were using it a lot for STX Lacrosse, a local company, and we were using it so much, he was like, you should really consider buying this, which we did, and we're partners with that. And so as I started to see Lotfi's footage, I really felt strongly that we needed to anchor the film with some really high-quality aesthetic, and what Lotfi Nathan, the director, was getting was mostly catch-as-catch-can by any means necessary with a Canon 7D. So I realized that we could expand the narrative and we could have a feature if we had some way to anchor it where the quality would look like the distressed footage was a deliberate stylistic choice. So once we got the shot with Pug, then everything started to really pick up speed. It would be another 3 years before we'd finish the film, but the Phantom footage, if anybody is unfamiliar with that, a Phantom camera is a camera that can film, depending on the resolution, 1,000 frames to up to 4,000 frames if you wanted to look at maybe VHS quality, but generally speaking, we do about 1,000, maybe 1,050 frames. So let me see if I can go to the next thing here. So our first shot with Pug became our poster. So the shot that John and I did, which was very hard to coordinate because the Phantom camera process was much different. Lotfi would be out and just kind of training his camera on people whizzing by, and in Baltimore, life moves very fast, and these riders move faster. So we had a lot of footage of things zipping by, and I knew that we needed to kind of slow things down in some way to kind of see the proficiency, and I'm not going to talk about any of the politics of the riding and the nuisance and the polarized aspects of that. So that very first shot, I felt like we could really use the Phantom. I knew the motorcycles would look cool in Phantom camera, slow motion, but I wanted to see human emotion, and it hadn't been a lot of that yet. It was mainly like animals killing animals, dogs shaking water off of them. So, I really felt like we could do something with Phantom in a documentary that was kind of standing on the shoulders of the fine work that John Benham was doing, mostly with animal on animal violence. So this was really exciting. So that was the day when we knew we had a direction for the film, which ultimately this was our original poster by a company called Post Topography here in town, which I really, really like a lot. This is our theatrical poster now, which is much different. It's been an entire evolution. It's been in 32 festivals in the past year. So now we're very fortunate and very lucky. We're one of the few films that actually gets a theatrical release these days on a small budget. So we, at one point, were the #2 documentary in the world and the #10 independent film in the world. So we're really excited that it's not only playing in theaters, but that it is also having a really wonderful run on video on demand and iTunes, and you can find it all over the place. So it's been a really incredible journey in this past year, and I don't want to block anything, but if you can kind of see, this is just kind of a collage. I mean, we went from working with Pug around at 11 and a half years old to now he's 16, and Drew was wonderful enough to recommend that he do his own TED Talk. So he's an incredibly articulate young man, and he's doing really well in school, and he wants to be a veterinarian. And you know, I've ridden motorcycles for about 25 years. I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. I don't ride with the 12 o'clock boys or like them, but I understand that living free by riding free, I understand that's a common, you know, theme. So it's really, I think no matter what he does in his life, whether he becomes a doctor, which he will, he'll still always be an enthusiast of riding. Currently, to the best of my knowledge, he doesn't ride on the streets anymore. He mostly does alleys and parking lots. And so, again, this is very unique that a film can be a hit in theaters and a hit on video on demand. So we're so lucky. I can't even. I mean, this is a blessed project. It's also a pop culture phenomenon. It's a uniquely Baltimore phenomenon, but the marketing has just become user-generated, and I really hope they make this into a game. I get really stressed out, and I love video games, and I really want to play this game. And I think they really will make it. That's not a joke. It was a joke, but it'll probably be real. So now, I just want to try to get through a couple things here, and if anyone has any questions. I know I'm talking a lot on the technical side, and I can't really speak too much to the political side. But this is a shot that is interesting because this is what real time looks like when we're filming Phantom. So this is no one's ever seen this in the world besides you guys and John, who had his eye on the viewfinder. So that's what it looks like in real time. Okay. So our DIT that day, Nick Midwig, was genius enough to roll on live feeds. So John is harnessed and strapped into the back of my pickup truck. Now we get lyrical and ethereal, and that's what I was really wanting to bring to the film with the Phantom. So now this should be that same shot, but now this is at probably around 500-600 frames per second. John, you probably remember better than me. So now it takes on a whole new meaning. It's no longer the footage that we were able to get by any means necessary, catch as catch can, to overuse that term. So there was a piece of that that's in the movie, and now again you're seeing stuff that's not in. So I still find it fascinating how life in slow motion is so compelling. And to explain slow motion, if anybody has an iPhone 5S, you can do 120 frames yourself right now and do some really beautiful work. But we see everything in life usually either 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second. So if we're filming 500, 600 frames per second, we're always going to play back at 24 or 30, so you have all those extra frames. Unlike what you would do in post, which we call step printing, like the opening shot of Reservoir Dogs, where you film normal, and then you're just repeating frames, and you kind of have this stair-step glitchiness. So what people seem to really fall in love with, and I kind of consider our film to have, 4 anchors here. We've got the beautiful footage that Lafayette was able to get with his Canon 7D. We've got a beautiful, sound design with the Baltimore Boys Choir, which complements, my footage that I directed for all of the Phantom work. And we had a wonderful editor, and I think that's 4. So there's 4 things here that really, I think, came together and complemented everything really beautifully. So the police were very interesting. This is my pickup truck, just to give you an idea of how we pulled a lot of these shots off. We are the only people in the world that I know of that have ever gotten what we got. The Phantom camera process is highly complex. To get the high frame rates at 35mm movie resolution, it's intense. So we had Mike O'Leary help us build this speed rail cage and strap John in, and eventually we'd have our whole crew, and I was able to, help coordinate shots. And John and I have worked together for so long, it's almost like a mind meld. I barely, at times, even had to speak a word, and he just knew exactly what we needed to get. This is me talking my way out of going to jail. So that's me. The rest of the crew ran and hid. Lotfi was arrested once, but got off, so we were allowed to film because we'd already been proven in court that there was nothing wrong with filming illegal activity. Although in this case, we were on a private lot, and we did as much as we could to keep everybody safe. And this is the Phantom camera. One of the ways we can review shots is looking through the viewfinder or a monitor system. We developed a system for this that had never been done before again in the world, where we were bypassing our very expensive camera magazine, which is basically a hard drive that can cost as much as $97,000 for 1 terabyte. And you can go to Best Buy and buy 1 terabyte for $97. The reason why it's so expensive is because you're filming massive amounts of data, and it has to zip right to your, from your RAM in your camera to your hard drive, just like that, so you can get set for the next shot. So this is John and I setting up a shot and reviewing things. It was very, 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 the most dangerous stunts they would have me do first. So, no, this is actually, this was a highly controlled process, and one of the things that was most difficult about the film was because the writers are used to just doing whatever they want, however they want, and you just get footage this way. The Phantom scenes were highly composed, and there was a lot of choreography. So this is just me showing what this young writer is about to do as we set up the shot. So this was a lot of choreography that went into this. Some things are out of order here. Again, I apologize. But this is the cage that was built, and this was the day before the shoot. This was back in June 2012 when we did the shots that would end up being the main shots in the film as far as riding through Baltimore City. There's John and I. John had shot a commercial for The Walking Dead, I believe, and this rig here he had developed for that, which came in handy for him to get the shots out of the back of the pickup truck, and he was strapped in. Steven, the rider, who we feature in the film, drove my truck because, as you'll see, he knew how to get up inside the pack. And once you're inside the pack of riders, you're safe and you can film in all different directions. And then there's orange safety tape, which Pug thought was, Pug's very quotable, thought was ridiculous, and said that somebody had to, I won't quote him exactly, but he just said that, you know, someone would have to be blind to run into us. So it was a highly controlled process. We took great pains to explain, especially when we were dealing with Pug, to make sure things were safe, explain exactly, you know, how we were going to get our shots, which is a complete contrast and polar opposite of how the shots that are in the film that are the most dangerous, those were gotten by Lotfi standing on the side of the road or us standing on the side of the road, and sometimes riding on a motorcycle with a rider. So this, you can see, is us in the back of the truck, and because we bypassed our camera mag because we couldn't afford to rent extra magazines and we wanted to film literally all day from sun up to sundown, our brilliant DIT, Nick Midwig, and our genius operator, John Benham, was recording directly to a hard drive. So we're going 90 miles an hour inside the pack, bouncing up and down, and, you know, we also have a laptop and a whole crew. And as you can see, not only is Nick saving our footage as we go, he's saving John's life as we go. So And the only way I could rationalize or justify this is that I'd read that the making of The French Connection, they had no permits, and when they did the street scenes in New York, nobody knew what was going on, and everybody was really running out of the way. So I would try to romanticize this so I wouldn't get depressed and be terrified I'd leave John's kids fatherless. So this is our whole crew, our Phantom crew, left to right, and with our director, Laffy Nathan there, Steven, the writer we follow in the film, David Toms, Nick, John, myself. This is right before we all burst into tears. This was the last day of shooting, and after 4.5 years, we knew we had the movie. We finally had gotten the signature shots we needed to complete the film, and literally we were in tears. We hugged each other. There was a lot of bromancing going on. Sorry. Okay, so again, just a lot of the highly stylized shots were that I directed were not to tell anybody what to do. That wouldn't be, nothing was disingenuous, but we did have to hit certain marks for focus. So this is just a particular scene that is in the film, and we would just do it over and over and over again. But again, we were very careful not to, being a documentary, we wanted to stick to like a journalistic ethos. So what I learned was that showing the writers their footage on the camera was very important because it was such a complex process, and we were asking them to not just ride for fun, we were asking them to hit marks and help us out with focus and everything. So that was one of the things I realized very early on is show them a shot, then they realize essentially how cool they look, so they're willing to put up with the process. And it gets some girls on YouTube like that. I think that's me trying to get a ride. So that's just our one shot that's in the film, and then there's a reverse angle on this young rider here. Again, just more behind the scenes photos. I'll try to skip through this. We did a lot of playback. Again, this is in Pug's backyard. This is when if anyone's seen the film, he smiles and he has his grill. So again, Pug was very involved in playback because he really, he could be an A-list actor. He really understands how to perform on a bike as well as in front of a camera. So again, because we were bypassing our mag, we had a whole tech system here. I think next up, Pug was very interested in the process, which was very helpful. So again, here's another shot. I think this will run in real time. So that's what we're up against in real time. And then I can show you what it looks like at the proper playback. Whoops. Which would be, we were losing our light, so we do something called opening up the shutter of the camera, which is more of a film term. So that was probably one of our last shots, if not our last shot that John was able to get. And John was, I was screaming ideas out to him, but I don't think he could hear me, and he was doing exactly what I was hoping he would do, which was wind open the shutter angle. Usually it's at 180 degrees, we're at 360 here, and getting us the best frame rate we could. Technicolor in New York did a beautiful job of balancing all of our eclectic grainy footage with the stylized footage. So if you see it in a theater, you'll never believe that it was shot with a $740 off-the-shelf camera and a $500,000 Phantom system. It all just blends together really well. A lot of filming, this was just waiting for something to happen. We probably spent, 2 hours here just waiting for these guys to come down the hill. We spent 4.5 years, essentially. I would often drop my wallet, my keys, my cell phone, and the riders, they have an amazing ability to know where objects are at all times. They don't go down, they're incredible. So I'd lose my keys, my wallet, cell phone, and the riders would spot it in the grass or in an alley and get it back to me, and I was just always so impressed. So left to right, Nick Midwig. Again, the scene's very complex, so I was really lucky that I had Nick and John available to operate the camera. Laffy, Nathan, our director, in the middle, and me. And just, again, this was just a waiting game. You know, again, it really did probably take about 2 hours because you don't know when these guys are going to go. Stephen, the patriarch, our oldest rider, again, we did everything we could, have prep meetings and you know, especially with the Phantom system, and talk out things, you know, and support the narrative that we were getting by any means necessary with what Lottie was doing, you know, training his camera on Coco and Pug. Just some interesting stuff here. Just some more stuff that's not in the film. It's also interesting to see that it's not color graded. This is just raw that came right out from the camera. So like when you see the film, I think maybe a piece of that is in there. Now this is interesting. Now this is what it's really like to be filming this. It's just crazy. But we weren't really doing anything illegal because we're just in the pack of riders, and this is some of my iPhone footage. Everyone's trying to hang on for dear life. So this is what it's like to be inside the pack of riders. And you know, this was our key day where we finally were able to get our shots throughout the city. Without that, the film wouldn't have been supported properly. It would have had one leg of the table holding it up missing. So this is interesting. I've got hours and hours of this. Had my keynote not crashed, I would have had a little bit more. And then here we are today. I'm sorry, this is last year. We went a year through festivals. We got picked up by a distributor immediately. We're very lucky. It's a complete phenomenon, you know, maybe similar to like the Blair Witch Project. We didn't see it coming at all. And then this is the most recent screening and Q&A we did at the Charles, and Pug is now 16, Coco, his mom, and you know, everyone's doing great. And it was a really exciting journey. And I can't thank enough the people that have supported us on Kickstarter. You know, Jed Dietz has been supporting this project, Debbie Donaldson with the Maryland Film Commission. We did everything we could to do this movie professionally and properly and safely, filed permits with the city. With my company, we registered it as a real film, gave them a $2 million insurance policy. We never got official permission, but we came close, and we were willing to pay police to make it as professional as we possibly could. So if you go to missionfilm.com, we'll be posting some other footage. There's going to be another release of the movie on Showtime, which is going to be an extended cut, which is going to include a lot of other stories we couldn't really document in the film. And I think that's going to be really exciting because it's 74 minutes now, and I think the other footage we have can support a longer narrative.